The Celestial Harmony had been the finest passenger vessel in 3 sectors. Now it was a tomb spinning toward a moon with 2 million colonists. Rachel Acker's hands flew across the dying console, rerouting what little power remained. The gravitational anomaly had shredded their quantum drives, killed the captain and most of the crew in an instant. The diplomatic delegation, 7 Voreth adults traveling with their cubs, had been in the observation deck when the hull breach took them. The cubs had survived, huddled in the reinforced nursery. 7 sets of crystalline eyes now watched Rachel with an intelligence that made her chest ache. "Emergency Protocol 7 Zeta," she muttered, pulling up the escape pod manifest. 1 pod, capacity, 8 beings. Rachel looked at the cubs, 7 plus her mate 8. The Harmony groaned, its superstructure fracturing. Rachel ran the trajectory calculations 3 times, hoping she'd made an error. She hadn't. Current vector, straight into Talmer Colony. Impact in 4 hours, 22 minutes. The explosion would shatter the moon's biodome. She needed to change course manually from the bridge for at least 90 minutes to push them past the moon's gravity well. The bridge had lost life support. Rachel stared at the numbers. Oxygen deprivation would cause most species to lose consciousness in minutes, die in 15. The cold would kill even faster. The radiation from the damaged cores would cook internal organs. She pulled up the escape pod's navigation system, programmed it, locked it. The youngest cub, Rissa, she'd learned their names during the voyage, chirped softly. The universal translator on Rachel's suit crackled. Cold, scared. Rachel knelt, her pressure suit creaking. "I know, sweetness, but you're going to be safe, all of you." She herded them into the pod, their scales clicking against the metal floor. They filled 7 acceleration couches, their small bodies trembling. Rissa reached out with a delicate claw. Rachel touched it gently, then stepped back. "Wait," one of the older cubs started, but Rachel slammed the hatch and locked it. Her override codes made sure they couldn't open it from inside. She initiated launch. Through the porthole, 7 faces pressed against the glass, mouths open in distress calls Rachel couldn't hear. She placed her palm against the viewport for 1 moment, then turned to the console and sent the pod hurtling toward safety. The bridge beckoned. Rachel checked her suit, 40 minutes of oxygen. She had emergency stimulants, designed for human combat medics, banned for civilian use because of their toxicity. The label warned they could cause cardiac arrest, organ failure, seizures. She injected the first dose and ran. The Voreth rescue ship Retribution's Edge arrived 6 hours after the distress beacon activated. Commander Thexel expected carnage, a human survivor having saved perhaps 1 cub, the favorite, while the others perished. It was logical. It was what any Voreth would do. Choose the strongest, ensure the species best survived. The escape pod's beacon led them in. Thexel's crew brought it aboard, opened the hatch. 7 cubs spilled out, terrified but alive, all 7. "Where is the human?" Thexel demanded. The eldest cub, Mavrin, gestured frantically. "Still on ship. She stayed. She put us in pod." Thexel's scales rippled in confusion. "Impossible. Why would she?" He checked the trajectory data, felt his blood chill. The Harmony had been on a collision course with Talmer. The course had changed. Manually. "Find that ship now." They located the Harmony 20,000 kilometers away, tumbling, disintegrating. Scans showed most of it was open to space. 1 tiny section near the bridge still held minimal integrity. They brought cutting equipment, breached the hull, and found her in what had been the captain's ready room, the last pocket with any protection. Rachel Acker was unconscious, sprawled near a failing heater, her skin gray-blue. Her suit was long empty of oxygen. The temperature read -40 Celsius. Radiation levels were enough to kill a Voreth in an hour. "She's dead," the medic said. Then the scanner beeped, a heartbeat, faint, slow, but there. "Impossible," Thexel whispered. The medical report made no sense to anyone. The human had survived 4 hours and 16 minutes in conditions that should have killed her in 10. Her oxygen had run out after 40 minutes, yet she'd continued working. The logs showed her manually adjusting the ship's trajectory for 93 minutes before collapsing. The chief physician, Dr. Homick, presented her findings to the assembled Vorath Council, with the 7 cubs in attendance. Human skin, she explained, has remarkable resistance to vacuum exposure. It doesn't rupture like ours would. Their blood vessels constrict to preserve core temperature. She injected herself with stimulants, Class IV military grade, which would cause instant cardiac arrest in our species. For humans, it's merely catastrophically dangerous. It kept her conscious long enough to complete the course correction. She breathed vacuum, Thexel said. Hypoxia tolerance. Humans can survive longer without oxygen than any species we've encountered. Their brains are adapted for it, an evolutionary remnant from their aquatic ancestry. She would have been hallucinating, her cognition impaired, but she remained functional long enough to save them. Mavrin stepped forward. Can we see her? Dr. Homick hesitated. She's in a medical coma. Her body is repairing itself, but the damage, we don't know if she'll wake up. Can we wait with her? Rissa asked. Rachel woke 3 months later to find 7 Vorath cubs draped across her medical bay, sleeping in chairs, on the floor, on the edges of her bed. The youngest, Rissa, had her small claw wrapped around Rachel's finger. Thexel stood in the doorway. Engineer Akafer, you've caused quite a stir. Rachel's throat was dry. The cubs. All safe thanks to you, he paused. We have a question, why? Rachel looked at the sleeping cubs. There was only one pod they fit. Math was easy. But you could have survived. Chosen one cub, saved yourself. Rachel's expression hardened. They're children, all of them. I couldn't, her voice cracked. I couldn't choose, I wouldn't. Thexel's scales shimmered, a gesture of deep respect. Your species frightens me, engineer. You shouldn't have survived. By every calculation, you should be dead. Yet here you are, because you decided not to be. Rachel managed a weak smile. We're stubborn like that. Rissa stirred, her eyes opening. When she saw Rachel awake, she made a sound, pure joy, that woke the others. 7 cubs scrambled onto the bed, chirping and clicking, careful of her injuries but desperate to touch her, to confirm she was real. Rachel wept and held them as best she could. Later, Thexel would update the diplomatic files. Humans possess the ability to redefine the word impossible through sheer determination and an inexplicable willingness to sacrifice themselves for others. Recommend. Approach with friendship. They make terrifying enemies, but they make the most loyal allies in the known galaxy. But in that moment, Rachel just held 7 lives she'd weighed against her own and found them infinitely more precious. And that, more than any other trait, was what made humanity remarkable. Subscribe to the channel to catch all our new stories.